The 2024 All-Star Race saw Joey Logano win his first race of the year. However, this was overshadowed by the activities happening off the track as Ricky Stenhouse Jr. and Kyle Busch engaged in an intense fistfight outside the number 8 hauler. Now it looks as though there might be a few penalties coming their way. And not just them, but even Ricky Stenhouse Sr. On the first lap of the All-Star race, Stenhouse made a move on the inside of Kyle Busch by squeezing the number 8 car slightly into the wall. Although Busch didn't suffer from any major damages, he was enraged with the number 47 car. At the start of the very next lap, he stepped on the gas pedal and rear-ended Stenhouse. This sent Ricky into the wall and out of the race. He was able to make it back to pit road, but instead of parking it in his own spot, he decided to park it in Kyle Busch's spot. A tow truck had to come and wheel the number 47 car out of Busch's spot. As Stenhouse got out of his car, he marched towards Busch's crew chief, Randall Burnett, and told him to tell Busch that he would be waiting for him after the race. And we will be waiting for you to hit that subscribe button so we can keep you up to date on the latest news surrounding NASCAR. Don't miss out on the action. And just as he promised, Stenhouse was waiting outside Busch's hauler as the race ended. As Kyle arrived, the two drivers engaged in a heated conversation. Although we couldn't hear much of what was said due to the fireworks in the background celebrating Joey Logano's race win, we were able to make out Ricky saying, "You hit the fence yourself. I didn't touch you. You hit the fence and then you hit me." As they continued to argue, Busch refused to take any responsibility for the incident. This triggered Stenhouse to say go back and watch it before throwing the first punch. This initiated a huge brawl, which got even Stenhouse Sr. involved. Ricky Jr. first landed a couple of punches and threw Busch to the floor. It was then that Ricky's father jumped on Busch to land a couple of punches himself. But a few seconds later, the mechanics got involved and separated the two drivers and their allies. But before Stenhouse left the area, he shouted, "I'm going to wreck you at Charlotte." Busch shouted back, "Bring it, I suck as bad as you." Ignoring that weird reply from Busch, Stenhouse Jr. has now received a $75,000 fine for the incident. In addition to this, one of the crew members of the number 47 team has been suspended for 4 races, while another one has been suspended for 8 races. Both of these crew members were also involved in the fight. So far, no penalty has been handed to anyone from the number 8 team. Although Kyle Busch did land a punch or two on Stenhouse's father, it can be argued that it was self-defense. But Ricky Stenhouse Sr., on the other hand, could face some harsher penalties. Since he was a third party getting involved in a fight between the two drivers, NASCAR could hand out a suspension, similar to the one they handed to Nick Sanchez's father last year when he got involved in a fight with Matt Crafton, who broke his son's nose. While Crafton got away with a $25,000 fine, Nick Sanchez's father was handed a 2-race suspension. After the fight, Stenhouse Jr. went on to talk about the incident to Fox Sports. "I feel like Kyle and I have always raced each other really hard back to the Nationwide Series, when we were competing for wins week in and week out," Stenhouse explained. "Never had any issues. Then, I wrecked him one time at Daytona, and he's kind of been bad-mouthing me ever since then. I feel like we get along with each other okay outside the racetrack. I talk to him quite a bit. I'm not sure why he was so mad. I shoved it 3 wide, but he hit the fence and kind of came off the wall and ran into me. I don't know, when I was talking to him he kept saying that I wrecked him. So definitely built up frustration with how he runs his mouth all the time about myself. But I know he's frustrated because he doesn't run as well as he used to. I understand that. We're a single car team over here. We're working really hard to go out and get better each and every weekend. We had a really good game plan coming in. Our car was really strong. Friday in practice, I was looking forward to running to the front. I think we'd pass a couple of cars there. I was excited for the rest of the night and he ruined it. Being stuck in here definitely doesn't help the frustration. If there was a tunnel, I'd have probably been at home watching the end of that. So here we are. I don't have anything else for him. If we want to do a charity match, I would do that. Raise some money maybe for the NASCAR Foundation or something. That'd be fun. Other than that, I don't have a whole lot for him." After a few hours to himself, Ricky calmed down a bit. Right after the fight, Stenhouse did say that he would wreck Kyle's race in Charlotte. However, he took part in a podcast where he said he is not looking to follow up on that. "I told him I might crash him at Charlotte. I'm not going to crash him at Charlotte," Stenhouse said. "Then that just keeps it going, right? So as far as my end goes, I feel like I'm past it." During the podcast, he also spoke about his dad getting into the fight. "Dad likes to fight," Stenhouse said. Dirt racer from back home. I saw him, and I was just making sure everybody wasn't gonna pummel him or each other. And it looked like all the crew guys were grabbing each other, him included. Just grabbing each other. Looks as though Stenhouse got more than just racing from his dad. So going to the next race in Charlotte, we may not see more drama involving Busch and Stenhouse. But if Stenhouse does decide to wreck Busch's race, he'll be facing a legend in the motorsport community instead of Kyle Busch. Since last season, Busch has been driving for Richard Childress Racing. In a recent interview, Richard gave a stern warning to Stenhouse. If he does wreck Busch's race in Charlotte, Richard himself will be heading up to fight. I don't fight as fair as I used to. I'm a little older, but Ricky Stenhouse says he was going to wreck the number 8 car at Charlotte when I see him. I'm going to tell him, if he does. I'm older, and I just changed my style of fight. You'll carry a rough, beating. Richard has his own history of fighting NASCAR drivers. His most recent fight was in 2011 where he fought Kyle Busch. Back during a truck race in 2011, one of the RCR drivers, Joey Coulter, was defending against Kyle Busch. It's fair to say that both drivers made some risky moves in competition. At the end of the race, Coulter was able to hold off Busch to take 5th place. But during the cooldown lap after the race, Busch went and bumped Coulter's truck out of frustration. This enraged Richard Childress. After the drivers had gone back to the garage area, Richard approached Busch and took off his jewelry. He then started punching Kyle in his face and continued to do so after putting him in a headlock. But now it looks as though he'll be defending Kyle Busch if he engages in a fistfight with Ricky Stenhouse Jr. After the All-Star race, Busch had his own take on the incident with Stenhouse Jr. It's the first lap of the race. We don't even have a water temp in the car yet, and we're wrecking each other off of turn 2, Busch said. I'm tired of getting run over by everybody, but that's what everybody does. Everybody runs over everybody to pass everybody. Busch felt that Ricky didn't have to make that move on the very first lap, when the tires were not even warm for the drivers. This is why we saw the number 8 car go after the number 47 in retaliation. Although the fans would love to see both the drivers continue the fight going into Charlotte, both Busch and Stenhouse Jr. have a more pressing matter in their hands, and it's not the potential penalty they could get. Both these drivers are yet to qualify for the playoffs, so heading to Charlotte, they will be focusing on gaining more performance out of their cars. We're currently at the halfway mark of the season, and both the drivers don't have too much time until the playoffs arrive. If Busch is not able to get that win this year, this could potentially be the worst season of his career and could push him into retirement. So, with only 13 more races to go in the regular season, will Kyle Busch and Ricky Stenhouse Jr. be able to qualify for the playoffs? If not, should they instead focus on continuing their rivalry going to Charlotte? Post your thoughts in the comment section below.